Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to our Challenge Survival world. If you're confused about what Challenge Survival means, you might want to check out the last episode because I kind of fleshed out the overall goals of this series. Basically, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not falling into the same habits with the early starting game, as well as trying to improve some of my other skills, such as building. And I've done a little bit of work off camera. The primary thing that you'll want to take note of is I've tried to get a decent feel for how I want to space out the log variants throughout the flooring here. And basically what I'm trying to stick by with this is I'm trying to make sure that these logs are not lining up with any other logs in the rows on either the X or the Z coordinates. And I actually think that I've done that up until this point, and it's coming together quite nicely actually, and keeping things relatively consistent. But the other thing that I did while I was off camera is I did do a little bit of caving, and I said that I wasn't going to do any strip mining, and I have kept to that. But while going through and caving some of the other areas, we were able to outfit ourselves with a full set of iron armor, as well as a couple of iron tools. We've got a couple of pickaxes because those are used a bit more frequently. We've got this iron shovel that's going to replace this stone one once that runs out, and then our iron axe. Now, I alternate a little bit between using axes and swords for weapons. I prefer, as a general rule, to use axes because they do deal more damage than than any other weapon, really, especially when you go into the world of getting critical hits. But that's kind of where we're at for the moment. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to show you some of the things that I have done in these caves over this way, because I did have to backtrack a little bit to find caves that went down a lot further for a lot of the resource gathering that I wanted to do. So this was the main entrance that we took, and the cave goes up, of course, but the higher you go, the less likely you are to find the resources that you want. So we went ahead and popped down here and went ahead and lit up a bunch of things. This cave continues that way for a little bit, but it eventually tapers out as well. The real meat of the cave system that I was working in just now was down this way, and I left a lot of the coal and other goods out because I didn't really have urgent need for them. Now, I will want to try and get my hand on some more of this coal as we continue, because it's, again, needed for smelting materials and other things. But this is about the point that I made it to last time, and you can see that being indicated by the torch on the wall here. Now, I know that there is some iron down this way because I just saw a peek of it. There's also some dripstone that we could harvest up if we wanted to. So we're going to go ahead and light up some of this space to prevent any of these mobs from sneaking up on us or spawning right behind us. And that's going to allow us to harvest a lot of these goods in a more safe fashion. So let's use up the remainder of this stone pick. It didn't have very much left in it anyway, and I thought that that had gone into this hand, but apparently that's only when you pick it up out of chests and the like. So that's going to be good to continue to sustain some of our resources. Now, I do want to be a little bit cautious with gathering up really any resource, especially where we are now able to fortune items such as iron and gold and other minables that you weren't able to in previous versions of the game. But we're early enough to the point where every little bit of iron we can get helps, especially where we've got that self-imposed restriction of not seeking out any of the diamonds and such through traditional strip mining means, at least until we get into a later phase, which I may reconsider how I want to go about things at that point. I can hear that there's a skeleton hanging out around here somewhere. And there's some of the deep slate, so it's good to know that we can continue down through this cave and find some of that as well. I feel safe enough to mine up this one piece of iron that was hanging out there. And I don't recall if there was anything further back this way. I believe I already grabbed it if there was. Okay, we could get our first bits of redstone down here, but I'm going to save off on that at least for the time being. Again, the primary objective is getting a bunch of iron while we're down here, and I know that there's a fair amount of that hanging out in various different locations. Now, the other thing that makes me nervous being down here is the fact that we're playing on hard mode, which means that there is communal spawning from zombies and such, and that's something that always makes me pretty nervous wandering around in these darker caves. But we're doing okay for the time being, and we've collected up a decent amount of iron in addition to the limited reserves that we still had left over back home. So we're going to continue to grab a little bit of what we're seeing here. And again, we'll come back for the redstone at a later time once I know that I'm in a position where it's beneficial for me. Now, we are also down on diamond level as well, and that means that I'm keeping a leery eye out for that coveted resource around here as well. Not seeing anything next to this pool, so we'll have to continue to keep an eye open. And let's see if we can keep away from this creeper. He's just going to get pushed into the lava. And we almost could have collected some gunpowder off of him, but not quite. Okay, now there is a little bit of lapis hanging out right here. And I'm interested to see if the lapis technique that has been going around does indeed work. I think it was along the negative Z coordinate. If you go 4 blocks and then dig down, you can find diamonds from where it's at. I don't know if that was specific to 1.17 or if it was 17.1 that had that as well. But let's go ahead and see if we can luck out. We're going to dig down a bit, but we are going to go ahead and do this the safe way. And it looks like we didn't have any luck with that here unless it's down beyond that lava, which I'm not really willing to explore that much further. So let's just try going out this way 4 blocks, because I thought it was the Z coordinate, but I guess we'll test the different axes and see what we find. Actually, while we do that, I'm going to check the debug border, because it does have us going through that border. So maybe if we go through, or go back to the wraparound border there, we can find it. Well, I've dug around the different chunk axes of this. The only place that I haven't gone to is coming back 4 blocks from the end of this chunk border, but that's on the x-axis, and I'm fairly confident that it was the z-axis that was what was recommended. So I'm going to chalk that up to not being something that we were able to have success on with this particular vein of lapis. Again, it might be something that works on other veins of lapis. We may have just gotten unlucky on that one. But I do want to collect at least a little bit more of this raw iron, which we can get a bit of the deep slate variant of it here. And I know that there's a lot of people that like to come back through and silk touch this because it is a really cool decorative block. However, we just need the iron at this early stage in the game. So as much as it may pain me to not have that as a building block option in the near future, at least from that particular vein, I am willing to take the fall on it. So let's just gather up the last little bit of the iron that we can see right here, and then we can head back up, and we will be back down in this cave at a later time because there's a lot of branches left to explore around here. Oh, well, I went down a little extra crevice on my way down and ended up finding a glow squid hanging out down here in one of these caves. So we'll go ahead and grab that before making our way back up to the top. And there's a little bit of extra iron hanging out right here as well. So we'll just grab that while we're right here next to it. And we got a carrot off of that zombie, which means that we can start farming carrots as well, which would actually mean that I can start making pig farm should I see value in doing so. So one of the other things that I did make my way out of those caves with was a couple of these blocks and points of dripstone. So we are also going to set up a little area where hopefully we can start to farm some of this as well. And we'll expand this as we get more of that dripstone. I don't believe you need anything more than this. If I need to put water source blocks up there, well, I guess that's a fairly easy alteration to make, but I don't think that that's actually needed for it. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on this because ideally I would like to use this as either a floor or wall in the basement, just to kind of add some texture and variation to the build palette that we're currently working with. I feel like these blocks go decently well together. They're not exactly in that same color gradient, but they're close enough to the point where I feel like you can make it work with relative ease. Alright, so I went ahead and put in the rest of the floor for the ground level. Let's go ahead and have a peek at how it's doing. Still no progress on our dripstone here, so I'll keep you updated on that if anything needs to change with it. But I think that that works decently well. I don't know what I have planned for this section of the ground level floor because I want to do my storage system on the lower section. And that might be what you're asking yourself about this grass patch as to why this isn't wood. And that's because I am going to be making a staircase that goes down here because I like to try and line up the staircases in the same area of the home. I feel like that kind of helps things, and it's similar to what you see stairs do in houses in the real world, at least in the US infrastructure you see that. So that's certainly where I'm leaning towards doing some more of that here. And you'll notice that I still have just my placeholder blocks there, so that's all well and good. Now what I am going to go ahead and do is I'm going to knock out these pieces of floor, and I'm going to bring back out these oak wood blocks that we've made. And that was not the tool that I meant to use there. We're going to strip both of those there because I feel like these are going to see more wear and tear with the other items that we've seen headed up this way with the rest of the floor that we've put in here. And then the reason I will use the wood is because this could be and probably will be exposed as the stairs come down. And then we can put in the rest of these blocks and strip those out and add a little bit more of that weathering to the floor. Now we can't unfortunately do that with the stairs that will be coming up this way, but it still gives that feeling of, hey, you know, the stairs see a decent amount of use. So I really feel like that kind of helps tie things together quite well. I think our iron should be done growing at this, or smelting at this point. So all of our iron has been smelted up, and that leaves us with a considerable amount. Over a stack and a half of the ingots are now available for us, so that's awesome. I'd like to see if I can get more of these glow ink sacks, but I'd have to figure out exactly how that mechanic works to get that a little bit better. We're gonna throw these 11 eggs down, see if we get a couple extra chickens in there, and I think that's about all the chickens that I want to have down in this pit. And then at some point, when I can actually spare the iron for it, I will go ahead, well, I'll have to have made my way to the nether as well. But we can set up a little chicken farm that will pop out food for us that way as well. And now we actually have those stairs in place as well. We'll probably make some more stairs to put on the bottom side like so, and give that a little bit more of a natural curve to it instead of the big jagged edges, which does make me think or realize that these weren't as necessary, but it helps with the overall aesthetic of things, so I'm not too broken up about it, all things considered. Let's take out this zombie that's hanging out next to the bed so we can sleep. And we've got a decent amount of wheat stored up at this point as well, so we might as well set up a pen that we can start keeping some cows in and then bring a couple over from this neighboring meadow and start working towards getting some leather as well as, at least for now, more easily sustainable food source also. Now, I like having the chickens in a hole in the ground, but I don't think that I'll be doing the same thing with the cows, so we will set up a little fence area first before I run off and try and get them. All right, we have our cows over here. We even bred a couple of them up because we're going to need to have plenty of them around here. But that works very well for what I had in mind and had hoped for here today. We'll harvest up a little bit more of this wheat. I don't think that our carrots have made very much headway, but that's just kind of what happens when you've only got one of them. We will end up getting more. The last thing that I want to do before we call it good for today is I want to do a little bit of a foot mission to see if we can find some sugar cane. So I'm going to let the sun set so I can get some rest in, and then we will head out on a journey to see if we can find some sugar cane, because that's really the last major piece of the puzzle that we're missing at this point in time. There's the last little bit of sugar cane we're looking for right on that little island there. So we'll run over, grab that, and then we'll head home before nightfall. Just gonna, take the time to collect resources from these cows that are not mine, since I'd still like mine to grow up. And actually, there's a spruce tree over that way, so we're gonna run and grab that as well and hope that we can get some saplings for growing up some spruce trees of our own. And I'm out way later than I intended to be, so this is gonna get interesting as we make our way back home. Alright, we've got 3 spruce saplings. That's better than nothing. So now it's time to make the trek home and avoid as much danger and treachery as we possibly can on our way there. And it would be convenient if we could stop in at that village we passed on our way out here and sleep the night away, but I've got to stick to the promise that I made of not visiting a village for the first several days. And we've got a gold-clad skeleton up there on the hill. Let's hope we can sneak past him without him noticing me. Okay, well, we made it home, and we were able to sleep the night away, which always makes me feel a lot of relief there. Let's go ahead and plant up this sugarcane just so we can, start having some of this in reserve for books and other things that we will certainly need. And just like that, the little farming area that we have set up is all rounded out. We're just missing the potatoes, which I can technically get off of zombies if I continue to hunt them down, but it's a relatively low chance of a loot drop. So realistically, is it going to happen? Probably not. But that is going to do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed, make sure that you leave a like on the video. That lets me know that you are invested in this type of content. If you have not done so already, make sure that you're subscribed. We are very, very close to that 1,000 subscriber milestone, and I am very excited to hit that and continue making these daily videos for you going forward. Thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye, everyone.